Good day, everyone. We are the Group 7 and we will be discussing the topic Global Media Culture. So before we proceed, let me first share with you our topic outline. So we will be covering globalization and media culture, history of globalization, definition of media, evolution of media, ways of social media in driving global integration, global and local cultural products, and the dynamics of local and global culture. So next slide. Now let's move on to the definition of key terms that we need to understand before going deeper into our topic. So first is media. Media refers to the main means of mass communication, or simply, the different ways we send and receive information. Examples of media are television, radio, newspapers, and the internet. It's also called communication channels because it connects people and helps spread messages quickly. So next is culture. Culture includes all the ways of life like arts, beliefs, traditions, and values that are passed down from generation to generation. This means that culture shapes how people live, think, and express themselves. Lastly is globalization. Globalization is about the spread of different cultures and ideas around the world. It happens through trade, travel, technology, and of course, media. Media plays a big role here because it is the main channels for sharing global culture and ideas with the different countries and communities. So global media culture focuses on the relationship between media, culture, and globalization. It explains how media connects people from different parts of the world, allowing cultures and ideas to mix and influence one another. So in short, media is the tool, culture is what's being shared, and globalization is the process that spreads it around the world. So next slide. Now let's move on to the introduction of our topic. First, let's talk about the word globalization. This term can be vague, unclear, and different to define because it covers many aspects of our world today. It doesn't just refer to one thing since it involves many different areas of life. Because when we say globalization, we can connect it to the global economy, international trade, growing prosperity or improvement in living standards, international travel and communication, immigration and migration, and even foreign films, food, and global problems like climate change or pandemics. So in short, globalization means the increasing connection and interaction among countries. As we all know, since it was already discussed to us, and it's happening around us every day, even in simple things like the shows we watch, the clothes we wear, or even the products we use. So in the next slide, this topic emphasizes that globalization could not occur without media. This means that without media, people from different countries wouldn't be connected as they are today. Media act in concert and cohort. This means different forms of media like television, radio, newspaper, and social media work together to make communication faster and easier. The idea of globalization and media can be explained through the concept of the global village introduced by Marshall McLuhan in 1962. A global village means that because of media, the world feels smaller and more connected. So media is the bridge that connects people and nations, making globalization possible. So next slide, let's talk about the history of globalization. In the late 19th, globalization as we understand it today started just a few decades ago. This was made possible because of advances in media, transportation, and technology. These developments helped connect people from different parts of the world more quickly and easily. So according to Arjun Appadurai 1996, globalization caused a rupture within social life. He identified two key factors, which he called two diacritics, which are media and migration, which shapes how people and cultures interact globally. So next slide. But globalization actually goes farther back in history than the late 19th. So first we have the rise of modernity. So this is during the age of enlightenment, new ideas, science, and discoveries helped shape connection between nations. Second, we have Columbus reaching America, which states exploration allowed people, goods, and ideas to travel across continents. Third, we have the beginning of humanity. So even the first humans traveled to search for food, water, and adventure. This shows how movement and connection started long ago. And lastly, we have Nayan Chanda that also explained that globalization is a process that has been happening silently for thousands of years, even before it was given a name. Now let's move on to the next part of the discussion, which is media. So first, the word media is actually the plural form of medium. Media is defined as a means of conveying something because it helps deliver messages or information to people. Examples of media include television, radio, newspapers, and the internet. The word media became more popular because society needed a term to describe and talk about new social issues that were spreading through communication platforms. Over time, different communication tools and events were grouped together under one idea, which we now call as mass media. So mass media is powerful because it can reach a large number of people at the same time, making it an important part of globalization. So in short, media is not just about technology. It's about how people connect, share information, and shape society.
Now we will proceed to the evolution of media and globalization. There are 5 time periods that usefully capture the study of globalization and media. We will look at these different time periods and point out how the media of each time period contributed to the globalization of our world. First, we have the oral communication. It is the oldest and most enduring of all media. So speech is often the most overlooked medium in histories of globalization. Yet, the oral medium, human speech, is the oldest and most enduring of all media. It has been practiced for over 200,000 years, while others, like script, has been with us for less than 7,000 years, print for less than 600 years, and digital technology for less than 50 years. Over hundreds of thousands of years, despite numerous changes undergone by humans and their societies, the very first and last humans will share at least one thing, and that is the ability to speak. So, oral communication aids globalization through allowing humans to cooperate. Coordination, sharing of information about land, water, climate, weather, tools, weapons, and technology. It also stored and transmitted agricultural information. Furthermore, it also led to the development of markets, trade of goods and services, and created the first civilization Sumer in Middle East. Sometimes called the cradle of civilization, Sumer is thought to be the birthplace of wheel, plow, irrigation, and writing. Then next we have the script. Script, as the very first writing, it allowed humans to communicate and share knowledge and ideas over much larger spaces and across much longer times. It has its own evolution and development from cave paintings, petroglyphs, hieroglyphs, as in the pictures presented. So, dirian na point nagsugod ang structured communication, where naanang idea na, pwede na moabot ang information sa lain-laing lugar o panahon gamit ang pagsulat. So, if globalization is considered the economic, cultural, and political integration of the world, then surely script, the written word, must be considered an essential medium. Third, we have the printing press. Usa sa pinakadako na turning point sa evolution of media, ang pag-exist ng ani na medium. So, it started the information revolution and transformed markets, businesses, nations, schools, churches, government armies, and many more. It has two consequences. First, it preserved and standardized knowledge. It had been more malleable in oral cultures and have become more variable as it spread orally across regions and lands. Second, it encouraged the challenge of political and religious authority. This is because of its ability to circulate competing views. The printing press encouraged the literacy of the public and the growth of schools. Dirian nag-start ma-democratize ang knowledge with the rise of inexpensive, easily obtained magazines and daily newspapers that brought news from around the world to the people. Truly, the printing press helped foster the knowledge of globalization and globalization itself. Then we have the electronic media. Examples of it include the telegraph, telephone, radio, film, and television. With the use of telegraph, rail travel was more efficient. Corporations and business were able to exchange information. As Samuel Morse began to work on this machine in the 1830s, it eventually could send coded messages, dots and dashes, over electrical lines, and the effects were enormous. Then we have the telephone. Transmitting speech over distance was the next breakthrough. It became the world's dominant communication device. The invention of telephone is credited to Alexander Graham Bell in 1876, which quickly became a globally adapted medium. So this generation also includes radio and film. Creation of television brought together visual and aural power of film with accessibility of radio. Overall, electronic media opened the global consciousness. Tungod ani, mabati og makita na ng mga tao ang panghitabo sa lain nasod. Regardless sa distansya, bahala gano kalayo o kaduol lang isa ka lugar. Lastly, we have the digital media. Computers have revolutionized work in every industry and trade. This opened up new areas and methods of research. Some of the largest companies include Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, and more, arose in the digital era and have been instrumental to globalization. So, this is the area na pinaka-familiar sa atua. Tanan. The current world karon. Kanang gamay day og gaposta sa Facebook, og IG, og galantaw tag Reels, og videos pod sa TikTok. And even use the digital world for our school activities like posting for awareness or using it in our media information subjects. So access to information around the globe allows people to adopt new practices in music, sports, education, religion, fashion, cuisine, the arts, and other areas of culture. Overall, digital media have revolutionized our daily life in so many ways we could think of.
Hi everyone, so let's start with something called the global imaginary. This means how people imagine or picture the world as one big community. Because of media like the internet, TV, and social media, we can now see what's happening all around the world. For example, if there's a concert in America or a typhoon in Japan, we can know about it right away. This helps people imagine themselves as part of a global world, not just their own country. That's why Manfred Steger said that media makes people imagine the globe as one big community. Next, we have Benedict Anderson. He explained something called imagined communities. it means that people in a country may never met everyone who lives there, but they still feel connected as one nation. For example, you don't personally know every Filipino, but you still feel that you're all part of the Philippines, right? Anderson said media like newspaper, TV, and now social media help people feel that connection. So, media doesn't just connect us to our country, but now to the whole world. Now let's talk about Marshall McLuhan. He said that media connects the world so much that it becomes a global village. Imagine the whole earth as one small village where everyone can talk to each other instantly. Like when you message someone from another country or watch YouTubers from different parts of the world. That's the global village. McLuhan believed that this would help people understand each other and bring peace and unity around the world. However, not everyone agreed that the global village would be perfect. Lewis Mumford said that media can also be used for bad things, like for power or control. He warned that instead of bringing peace, the global village might cause problems like spreading false information, controlling people's opinions, or making cultures disappear. So while media connects us, it can also cause conflicts if not used wisely. Now let's move to global integration. This means that countries around the world are becoming more connected, especially in business, technology, and politics. For example, a phone designed in America can be made in China and then sold in the Philippines. That's the global integration. It's about sharing ideas, products, and information across borders so the world becomes more united. Because of global integration, people from different countries can share cultures, languages, and trends faster than ever before. It helps create friendships and understanding between nations. Through social media, we can all be part of one big global community, learning, sharing, and growing together. But it also reminds us to respect each other's cultures and use media responsibly. So, in summary, Global Imaginary and Global Village show how media makes the world feel smaller and more connected, and global integration is how this connection affects our economy, culture, and daily lives. We live in a one world, like one big village, where media helps us imagine and experience life together.
So now let's talk about the role of media in cultural globalization. Media plays a very important role and it influences cultures in two interconnected ways. First one, media provides an extensive transnational transmission of cultural products. This means that media allows culture such as music, films, art, and fashion to travel easily from one country to another. For example, Filipinos enjoy K-pop music and American movies, while our own music and talents are now being recognized abroad. Media serves as the bridge that spreads culture worldwide. Second, media contributes to the formation of communicative networks and social structures. This means media connects people and builds communities, whether online or offline. Through social media, we can share ideas, opinions, and experiences instantly with people from other countries. Communities are now formed not just by location, but by shared interests, like online fandoms, gaming groups, or advocacy movements. Because of this, global media cultures create a continuous cultural exchange. This exchange continuously influences who we are.
our identity, nationality, religion, behaviors, or even our lifestyles in general. For example, social media trends often affect the way we speak, dress, or think. We adapt parts of foreign cultures and mix them with our own, creating something new. But at the same time, this global influence also makes us reflect of our local identity. So because of this, maka-ask taog questions like, are we losing our own culture, or can we adapt to global changes while still being proud of who we are or aha tagagikan? So media doesn't only spread information, it also shapes how we see ourselves and how we relate to others in a globalized world. Now let's move on to global and local cultural production. This simply means how products and cultural ideas are created, shared, and adapted around the world. So let's first start with global products. These are products sold internationally under the same brand and specifications. So for example, what we have here is Coca-Cola, Apple, Adidas, and McDonald's. So basically, wherever you go or whichever country you go, these brands always stay consistent. This shows how globalization promotes uniformity and shared consumer experiences. On the other hand, local products are created within a specific place or culture. They preserve traditions. Basically, an idea sa local products is to preserve traditions and express community identity, which may be different from other countries. So what we have here, as our example, is the Yakan textiles from Basilan, which represent the creativity and identity of the Yakan people. So they made this based on their culture. Next is the Gothic cathedrals in Europe, known for their architectural and religious significance. And then the Ojibwe fish decoys from North America, which reflect indigenous art and cultural practices. So these examples remind us that local products aren't just items, they're expressions of people's story, history, and beliefs. So while global products connects us through sameness or similar tatanan of experience, local products keep our sense of identity and culture alive. So lahi-lahi ta, and this represents our country as one. Now let's move on to the dynamics of local and global culture. This refers to how culture moves and changes across the world because of globalization. Today, culture flows faster than ever, especially through digital media, where we share and consume culture instantly. So there are three main perspectives that explain how these cultural flows happen. So first, we have the cultural differentialism, cultural hybridization, and cultural convergence. First is the cultural differentialism. So this view says that cultures stay distinct and different from one another even with globalization. While global influence might reach them, their core identity remains strong. So muna ang ihang main idea. For example, Japan has embraced modern technology but still maintains its traditional costumes, etiquette, and festivals. So in this perspective, cultures may interact, but they don't completely blend. They keep their individuality. Next is the cultural hybridization. This happens when different cultures blend together to create something new. It's not just copying, but mixing of culture. For example, Filipino pop culture now includes a mix of Western music, Korean fashion, and local creativity. So, as you have noticed, ato ang mga local groups in the Philippines, for example, ang Bini. So, they release Filipino songs, but if you've noticed, ang ilahang style is more influenced on Korean and Western. So, this results in something uniquely Filipino but globally influenced. So the key idea here is localization, which means the merging of global and local elements. Each country adopts global culture in its own special way, creating diversity within globalization. Next, So next is the cultural convergence. This perspective says that globalization causes cultures to become more alike or homogeneous. This can happen when a dominant culture, often the Western countries, spread its influence globally, making other cultures adopt its styles, language, or values. For instance, the widespread use of English, global fast food chains, or Western media influences are signs of convergence. However, this can lead to cultural imperialism where one culture overpowers others and causes traditional cultures to fade away. So basically, gidominate sa isa ka culture ang another culture, which results to katong culture nga gidominate kay murag ma-forgotten na bitaw siya. So to summarize this lesson, globalization connects the world through trade, communication, and shared ideas, and media is what makes that connection possible. So media plays a very important role in globalization. From oral communication to digital media, we saw how media evolved to shape how people interact and share culture. It created a global village where everyone is connected. But while globalization brings unity, it can also blur cultural differences. That's why it's important to stay proud of our local identity and our roots while engaging with the global community. So that ends our presentation, and thank you so much for listening.